Are you serious, Ethan? Again? That is how my Sunday started. Chloe's voice cracked through the kitchen like a whip. She was standing at the end of the island, dressed like she was headed to a photo shoot instead of brunch. Light blue blouse, fitted skirt, heels that were way too tall for a midday meal, makeup perfect down to the last detail. She had that tight look in her eyes, the one she gets when she feels disrespected. I was still in sweatpants, holding a mug of coffee. What? I asked. She let out this dramatic little laugh and flipped her hair over her shoulder like there was an audience watching. You are skipping brunch again, she said. So I get to sit there alone while Madison and Brittany talk about Pilates and divorcing their third husband. I took a slow drink of coffee before answering. You know I do not do great in loud restaurants when I have had 4 hours of sleep, I said. Go enjoy yourself. I will cover it. I pulled out cash and set it neatly on the counter. Calm. Simple. Like I was offering peace. She did not see it that way. Oh wow. How generous, she snapped. So I go entertain everyone while you sit at home sulking in your slippers like some retired old man. You are exhausting, Ethan. Honestly, Madison says you feel more like a roommate than a husband lately. I did not react. I just looked straight at her and let the quiet hang there. And what does that make you? I asked. A wife who needs her friends to tell her how to treat her husband. That one hit. She blinked, but she recovered fast. You know what your problem is? She said. You hide behind being calm. You think you are better than everybody because you never raise your voice. But really, you are emotionally blocked up. You have no backbone, no fire, no reason for me to respect you at brunch. I reached over and slid the money back off the counter. My mistake, I said. She stared at me, mouth slightly open, but nothing came out. I stood up slow, grabbed my keys from the hook by the door, and headed down the hallway. Where are you going? She demanded. Her voice had that tight, brittle edge now. I closed the door behind me before she could say anything else. My name is Ethan Walker. I am 34 years old. I live in a condo in the lower downtown district of Denver. Clean lines, concrete floors, minimal furniture, and a coffee machine I absolutely paid too much for. I work as a landscape architect. Yes, that is a real job. I design rooftop gardens for high-end buildings. Most of those places care more about the skyline view than the people standing in the space. It is quiet work. Focused. I actually like it. Chloe and I do not have kids. Not because we cannot. We just never really sat down and decided anything. That is how most of our marriage has gone. Sharp comments. Long silences. Conversations that should have happened but never did. It was just another Sunday. But when she said I had no backbone, that stuck with me. Because what she calls weakness is not weakness. It is patience. And mine was running out. Around 7:30 that night, I heard the door unlock. I was already on the couch with my laptop on my knees, finishing up renderings for a rooftop project downtown. I did not look up. I did not have to. Her perfume always shows up before her heels do. Chloe walked in like she had just stepped out of a magazine spread. Her jacket hung loose off one shoulder. Lipstick fresh. Cheeks a little flushed from wine or laughing too hard. Probably both. Guess what the girls said today? She called out in a sing-song voice, tossing her purse onto the armchair like it did not cost over $1,000. You are going to love this. I kept working, zoomed in on the blueprint. Let her have her stage. They said, she continued, slipping off one heel with slow, dramatic flair. They have never seen a man hide behind politeness the way you do. Madison actually said, he is like a wax statue. Good-looking, well-mannered, but zero guts. She smiled at me like she had just delivered the punchline of a joke. I stayed quiet. Let her keep going. Oh, and Brittany said you give off total roommate energy. Like you are always 3 feet away from being replaced by a houseplant. I closed my laptop slowly and set it on the coffee table. You done? I asked. She tilted her head like she was thinking. Almost. One more, she said. Madison told me if she wanted a real man, she would show up to brunch single next time. That was the line. I stood up. Calm. Steady. Not loud. Not emotional. Just precise. I am glad Madison feels comfortable giving you relationship advice, I said. Especially considering how she spent last month casually touching my arm every time you got up to use the bathroom. Chloe's smile faded. Yes, I noticed, I said. And so did your other friends. She was just being friendly, Chloe said quickly. She was drunk, I replied. And halfway in my lap. You never said anything, she shot back. Because I trusted you to see it, I said. But now that Madison is apparently your relationship expert, I figured it was worth mentioning. She crossed her arms tight across her chest. You are deflecting. No, I said. I am reminding you that your friends are not just negative. They are manipulative, and they are slowly twisting how you see this marriage. She let out a sharp laugh. Oh, please. You are just upset because somebody finally said it to your face. You walk around like you are some enlightened monk, Chloe said, her voice sharp. But you are emotionally frozen. No passion, no heat, just empty air and landscaping invoices. I let out a slow breath and rubbed the back of my neck. You really think I am the problem here? I asked. I think you have convinced yourself your calm attitude is a virtue, she said. But it is really just cowardice dressed up as self-control. She thought she was landing heavy punches. She did not realize they were not connecting. Chloe, I said evenly, you live in a condo you do not pay for. You drive a car I bought. You spend your afternoons at brunch complaining about a husband who quietly funds your entire lifestyle. Her jaw tightened. So this is about money now? No, I said. This is about respect. And last time I checked, that is supposed to go both ways. Silence fell between us. Not the peaceful kind. The cold, sharp kind that cuts through a room. I walked into the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water. She followed, but slower this time. You are impossible to argue with, she muttered. Because I do not yell? I asked. No. Because you twist everything into logic when you are really just emotionally unavailable. I leaned back against the counter, glass in hand. I am not unavailable, I said. I am just not interested in turning my marriage into entertainment for your friends. She crossed her arms and leaned against the refrigerator. You really think they are the problem? I think somewhere along the way you started treating their opinions like scripture, I said. And you forgot who actually wakes up next to you every morning. She studied my face like she was searching for something. Anger, hurt, a crack in the surface. All she found was quiet. The kind of quiet that meant I was done trying to win her over. I am going to take a shower, she finally said. Her voice had flattened out. Okay, I replied, stepping aside so she could pass. Right before she reached the hallway, I added, you might want to ask yourself why their relationships keep falling apart, and why they seem so invested in watching ours do the same. She did not answer. A few seconds later, the bathroom door shut. The condo went silent. But it was not peace. It sounded like something breaking apart in slow motion. A few days later, Thursday evening rolled in. Denver looked calm outside. Thin clouds hanging low. Streetlights flickering on. Traffic humming in the distance like background noise. Inside our condo, it was anything but calm. Chloe's voice carried above the rest, just loud enough to dominate the room. Madison, Brittany, and another woman I had never met were stretched across our sectional like it was their personal lounge. Wine glasses clinked together. Bare feet tucked under throw pillows I had picked out myself last year. Their laughter was sharp and fast, and too loud for the space, bouncing off the tall ceilings. I stood off to the side in the open kitchen, leaning against the counter with a glass of water. I stared at my phone like I was reading something important. At first, I was not really listening. But the more they drank, the braver Chloe got. Let us be honest, she said, slowly swirling her wine. If Ethan was any more emotionally distant, I would need a telescope just to make eye contact. That did it. The room exploded in laughter. Madison grinned. At least he is quiet. My last husband would not stop talking. You got the silent model. Like an electric car with no personality. More laughter. Brittany leaned forward, smirking. Is that not what you wanted, though? Calm. Stable. Approved for a mortgage. Chloe did not hesitate. I wanted a man, she said. Not a therapist in a hoodie. They howled. I lifted my eyes from my phone, but stayed silent. Madison raised her glass. To survival, she said. Then she added, and if this one does not work out, you have a backup plan, right? Chloe smiled. No. She smirked. And it was not playful. I give this marriage 7 months, she announced, lifting her wine like she was making a toast. Honestly, 7. I felt the words land before my brain finished processing them. The room paused. 7 seconds, I said calmly. I slid my wedding ring off my finger and placed it on the edge of the counter like it was spare change. The silence hit hard. Brittany's smile froze in place. Madison blinked. The other woman suddenly became very interested in her wine glass. I did not raise my voice. I did not make a scene. I walked out of the kitchen, through the heavy silence, past the couch where Chloe sat stiff and stunned. As I turned down the hallway toward the bedroom, I heard her chair scrape loudly across the floor. "Ethan, wait." Her voice was high now, tight, following me down the hall. Her heels struck the wood floor in fast, sharp clicks. I did not look back. Behind us, the living room collapsed into awkward quiet. I heard someone clear her throat softly. Inside our bedroom, I opened the closet and pulled out the overnight bag I usually used for work trips. I was not planning to leave that second, but I needed her to see it. Chloe rushed in after me, her face flushed. "Are you serious?" she demanded. "You are going to embarrass me like that in front of my friends?" I kept folding clothes. "No," I said evenly. "I am reacting like a man whose wife just placed a public bet against her own marriage." "It was a joke," she said. "You are not funny, Chloe. You are blowing this out of proportion." "No," I said, cutting her off as I zipped the bag shut. "You blew it. I just stopped catching the pieces." She looked around the bedroom like she had just realized something important. There were no cameras, no audience, no applause, just us. Just the echo of something that used to be sacred, now turned into cheap entertainment. "I did not mean it," Chloe whispered. "You know that." I walked back to the kitchen, picked up my wedding ring from the counter, and slipped it into my pocket, not back onto my finger. "Yeah," I said quietly. "That is the problem. I do not know anything anymore." I sat down on the edge of the bed. I did not say another word. I let her stand there with nothing but her own voice replaying in her head. Out in the living room, I heard one of her friends mumble an excuse about needing to leave. The show was over. Nobody was laughing now. Chloe stood near the doorway while I reached up to the top shelf of the closet and pulled down her suitcase. The wheels hit the hardwood floor with a dull clack. No yelling, no dramatic shouting, just the sound of fabric folding, zippers sliding, drawers opening and closing. "Ethan," her voice cracked. That was the first real crack all night. I did not answer. I opened her drawer, pulled out a stack of t-shirts, and started folding them neatly, like it was laundry day. "You are not serious," she said, stepping further into the room. "You are actually packing my things." I paused for a second, looked at her, then went back to folding. "It was a joke," she insisted. "You know how we talk. Me, Madison, Brittany. It is sarcasm. That is our humor." "It was disrespect," I said calmly, folding another shirt. "And you were sober enough to mean it." Her eyes narrowed. "So that is it. I say one thing in front of my friends, and now you are throwing me out?" "I am asking you to leave," I corrected. "There is a difference." She crossed her arms and let out a bitter laugh. "Wow, you are really doing this." I looked up at her and held her gaze. "I should have done this a long time ago." Her jaw tightened. "So you were just done? That easy?" "No," I said. "You were done the second you turned our marriage into entertainment for people who would not last 3 weeks in a healthy relationship themselves." Her lips trembled for a second. Then anger replaced it. That was always her fallback. "I do not need this," she snapped. "I do not need you. You think I am going to beg? Please." I zipped the suitcase slowly. The sound cut through the room. "Then you will not mind taking this and going." She stared at the suitcase like it had personally offended her. From the living room, I heard the front door open quietly. Madison or Brittany. Maybe both. No goodbyes. Just the kind of silent exit people make when things stop being funny and start being real. "I can stay with Madison," Chloe said, lifting her chin. "She has always said I deserved better anyway." "She is welcome to try," I replied. That did it. With a sharp huff, Chloe yanked the suitcase upright. Her fingers fumbled with the handle before she dragged it toward the hallway. She stopped at the doorway and turned back one last time. "You think this makes you strong, Ethan? You think being cold and silent makes you right?" I did not answer. I looked at her the way I would look at an empty room. Not hate, just absence. She scoffed, spun around, and walked out. A few seconds later, the front door slammed. And just like that, all the noise disappeared. The condo went completely still. Not peaceful, not tragic, just still. Like the moment after a glass shatters and nobody moves to sweep it up. I sat down on the bed again, elbows resting on my knees. The weight of it all settled in. There was no victory in it. No satisfaction. Just the faint sound of suitcase wheels rolling down the hallway earlier, and the long, steady breath of a man who finally stopped waiting to be respected. 6 days passed. No calls. No text messages. Not even one of her long, passive-aggressive voice messages she used to send when she wanted the last word. And I did not chase her. Not because I wanted her gone forever, but because something inside me had gone quiet. A kind of silence that felt earned. Necessary. Like when your body finally goes numb after too many repeated injuries. Then, just after 9 o'clock on Thursday night, there was a knock at the door. Not loud. Not desperate. Just hesitant. I opened it. Chloe stood there. Her hair was pulled back in a simple ponytail. No makeup. She was wearing a hoodie that was not hers. Her eyes were puffy. Her face pale. For a moment, neither of us spoke. She looked down at the floor, then back up at me like she had rehearsed something she no longer believed in. "Hey," she said softly. "Can I come in?" I stepped aside without saying anything. She walked in slowly, like she was unsure if the ground beneath her feet would hold. She stopped in the middle of the living room and crossed her arms, unsure where to sit. Like the place she used to call home suddenly felt unfamiliar. "I have been staying at Madison's," she began. "But it is complicated." I leaned against the wall near the entryway and stayed quiet. "I did not come here to fight," she added quickly. I needed somewhere to go. Just for tonight." I gave a small nod. Not agreement. Just acknowledgement that I heard her. She looked at me then. And for the first time in a long while, something softer flickered in her eyes. "I miss you, Ethan." Her voice was softer now. "I am not interested in another joke," I said flatly. The softness in her eyes faded almost immediately. "It was not like that," she murmured. "You embarrassed me in my own home," I said, keeping my tone low and steady. "And I let it happen for too long. I let a lot of things slide." "I did not mean to humiliate you," she said quickly. "It just got out of hand." "No," I replied. "You chose it. You wanted the laugh. You got it. And now you are standing here hoping I will pretend none of it happened." Her jaw tightened again. "So what?" she snapped. "You have just been sitting here waiting for me to crawl back so you could slam the door in my face." "I have not been waiting for anything," I said. "That is the difference." Silence filled the room. For a second, she looked like she might cry. Then it shifted. "You are not as emotionally invincible as you pretend to be," she shot back. "You are so calm all the time. So detached. Living with you feels like living with a statue. Maybe I would not have joked about our marriage if you actually acted like you were in one." I held her eyes. "And maybe if you respected it," I said. "I would have." That landed. She blinked hard and looked away, lips pressed thin. "I was wrong to come here," she muttered, turning toward the door. I did not stop her. "I thought maybe you would want to fix this," she added. "But I see now you do not care. You never really did." "No, Chloe," I said evenly. "I stopped proving it to someone who never noticed." Her hand hovered over the doorknob. "I do not even know who you are anymore," she said quietly, without turning around. I stayed where I was. "Then we are even." She opened the door. Cold night air spilled into the condo. She stepped out. This time, there was no slamming door. Just a quiet click. The kind of exit someone makes when they hoped, just for a moment, that the wreckage might still hide an open door. But what she found instead was a man who had finally learned the strength of keeping it closed. A few nights later, I got an invitation from a colleague. Small rooftop gathering. String lights. Wine. Soft music. The kind of place where nobody expected drama. That was probably why I agreed to go. It had been a long week. The condo felt too quiet, like the silence was stacking up in the corners. I figured a little background noise might do me some good. The rooftop overlooked downtown Denver. Not the shiny skyscrapers, but the old brick buildings and rail lines near Union Station. Warm heaters glowed orange. Someone had set out bowls of olives and little gourmet crackers I had no intention of touching. I stood near the edge of the terrace with my hands in my coat pockets, watching the city lights flicker below. People moved around in small groups, mostly coworkers and their friends. For once, I did not mind not knowing anybody. Quiet felt safe, until I heard the voice. Well, if it is not the mysterious Mr. Stoneface. I turned. Madison, Chloe's friend. Her hair was curled and swept over one shoulder, the kind of effort someone makes when they want attention. She wore a fitted dress under a wool coat and held a drink that looked more like sugar than alcohol. "Did not think you would show up," she said, stepping beside me. "I did not think you would be here either," I replied. "I know the host," she said with a small smile. "Well, technically I dated him once. Apparently that still gets me invited." I gave her a sideways look. Convenient. She took a sip of her drink. Not as convenient as you showing up the same week your wife moves out. I did not respond. I just looked back at the skyline and let her fill the quiet. You look better, she added. More relaxed. Less suffocated. And now you are analyzing me? I asked. Come on, Ethan, she said. You never fit into Chloe's world. You are steady. Decent. The kind of man people do not appreciate until they lose him. Is that what she told you? I asked calmly. Madison's eyes lingered on me longer than necessary. No, she said. That is what I figured out watching you sit through all those terrible brunches without once raising your voice. I lifted an eyebrow. You say that like you admire it. She laughed softly. I do. Most men bark. You just walk away. I let that sit there. She stepped a little closer than she needed to. So what now, she asked. Are you planning to stay single forever? Or are you open to less complicated company? Her voice lowered on the last part. I caught the faint scent of her perfume. That was when the wind shifted. A gust swept across the rooftop, and with it came the sound of heels striking concrete. I turned. Chloe. She stood near the entrance, arms folded, hair caught by the wind, but clearly styled with intention. Her eyes scanned the party quickly. They landed on me, then shifted to Madison, and stayed there. She walked across the rooftop, past polite greetings and confused looks, until she stopped a few feet from us. Madison straightened, but did not step back. Well, Chloe said, her voice calm in a way that felt dangerous. I guess I should not be surprised. Madison's jaw tightened slightly. It is just a conversation, she said evenly. In a dress you do not wear unless you are hoping to be noticed, Chloe replied. Madison's expression flickered. You walked out, remember? Madison shot back. And you walked right in, Chloe answered immediately. Then Chloe turned to me. She was not yelling, not crying. Her face was unreadable. Her eyes locked onto mine like she was searching for something. An answer. A choice. Or maybe proof. I did not say anything. I did not defend Madison. I did not explain myself. I just stood there, calm, still, not reacting to the heat building between them. Because for the first time in a long time, I did not owe anybody an explanation. The air changed. Somebody reached over and lowered the music. Conversation stopped mid-sentence. Glasses froze halfway to lips. Every eye on that rooftop shifted toward us. Chloe was the first one to look away. Without another word, she turned and walked off. Not fast, not dramatic, just gone. Madison let out a breath and shook her head. Well, she muttered, that was dramatic. I did not answer. I watched Chloe disappear down the stairwell, her shape fading under the string lights. All I felt was the wind, nothing else. The pen clicked louder than I expected. It was one of those cheap plastic pens they keep stacked in reception desks. The kind that runs dry unless you press harder than necessary. Like your signature does not count unless it carries some weight behind it. I looked down at the final line. Ethan Walker. Signature. The office was quiet. Just a small oak desk between me and my attorney. The air smelled faintly like old coffee from a forgotten pot somewhere in the corner. My lawyer, Richard, sat across from me. Mid-60s. Silver hair. Corduroy jacket. The type of man who had seen enough divorces to know not all of them deserved saving. You can take another minute, he said gently. I do not need a minute, I replied. I pressed the pen down and signed. Slow. Steady. That was it. 3.5 years of marriage. Not long compared to some, but long enough to believe you were building something real. Long enough to be surprised at how quietly it could collapse under sarcasm, pride, and too many conversations with outsiders instead of each other. I leaned back in the chair. The leather creaked softly in the silence where promises used to sit. Richard gathered the papers and slid them into a yellow envelope, sealing it with the smooth efficiency of a man who had probably done this more times than he could count. She did not contest anything, he said. It was a clean separation. Clean does not mean painless, I answered. He nodded. True, but not everything worth doing is painless. He did not offer sympathy. I did not want it. Just acknowledgement. The kind that says you did what needed to be done. Outside the office window, the city kept moving. People passed by in coats and scarves. Earbuds in. Coffee cups held close. Car horns sounded. Engines rumbled. Tires hissed against wet pavement. Nobody cared that I had just signed away a life I once believed in. And honestly, that felt right. Our marriage had become like the city. Cold. Busy. Too loud with things that did not matter. And too quiet where it should have counted. I stood, shook Richard's hand, and thanked him. He did not smile. He just nodded. I appreciated that more than some forced good luck. When I stepped onto the sidewalk, the wind hit hard, sharp, impersonal. I did not flinch. I zipped my jacket up, lifted my collar, and slipped my hands into my pockets. No tears, no dramatic regret, just one less ring on my finger, and a strange stillness I had not felt in years. Like maybe, finally, I could hear my own thoughts again. It was early the next morning, still gray outside, the kind of morning where the city had not fully woken up yet. Just the low hum of heating systems and the occasional dog barking from another building. I had just finished making coffee. The smell cut clean through the quiet. Then the buzzer rang. I did not move right away. Part of me assumed it was a delivery. But when I checked the screen, it was Chloe. No makeup, no heels, just a faded hoodie and jeans. Her hands were shoved deep into her pockets. Her eyes looked shadowed by something heavier than lack of sleep. I buzzed her in. She stepped inside slowly, stopping near the doorway like she was unsure what she was allowed to be anymore. I am not here to argue, she said. Then come in, I replied. She moved further into the condo carefully, like the floor might shift beneath her. Her eyes traveled around the room. Not like she missed it, more like she was trying to recognize it. I poured her a cup of coffee without asking and set it on the counter near her. She did not thank me. She wrapped her fingers around the mug instead, like she needed something solid to hold. I have been thinking, she began, about everything. I stayed quiet. She took a slow breath, staring at the steam rising from the cup. About how pride can make you say things that are not true, she continued. About how being surrounded by the wrong people can make you forget what respect actually looks like. Her voice shook slightly. She kept her eyes on the coffee. I was wrong, Ethan, she said quietly. About you. About us. I see that now. I did not respond. I leaned back against the counter and waited. I let people who do not even understand love tell me how to treat someone who showed up for me every single day, she said. And I hate that it took losing you to realize that. Then she looked up at me. Her eyes were not sharp this time. They were tired, red around the edges. I am sorry, she said quietly. I nodded and let the words sit between us for a moment. Then I walked over to the table, picked up the large manila envelope Richard had given me the day before, and held it out to her. I am glad you came, I said, because these are ready. Her eyes dropped to the envelope, and everything in her face fell apart at once. She did not take it. She actually stepped back, like the paper might burn her. You filed, she asked. I signed yesterday. I thought, she swallowed hard. I thought we could talk. Try again. I gave you years to talk, I said gently. Now I am giving us both a way out. Her breath caught. So that is it. I did not say yes, but I did not say no. She nodded slowly, blinking back whatever was rising behind her eyes. Her hand lifted like she might grab the envelope. Then it dropped back to her side. I cannot believe this is happening. It already happened, I said. This is just the paperwork catching up. For a long moment, she did not move. Then she turned and walked to the door. No slamming, no dramatic exit line, just the soft sound of the latch, and the quiet click of a woman walking away with empty hands and a chest full of weight. The next morning, I did not expect another knock. But I heard one. Soft, careful, almost unsure. When I opened the door, Chloe stood there again. But she was different. She was not bracing for rejection. She was not trying to look impressive. She was not trying to look pitiful. She just stood there, open in a way I had never seen before. She held up a small paper bag and gave a faint, almost embarrassed smile. I brought chamomile, she said. It is the only tea you drink when you are thinking too much. I remember. I did not respond right away. I stepped aside and let her in. We stood in the kitchen while the kettle warmed up. She did not pace. She did not inspect the apartment. She leaned lightly against the counter, hands folded in front of her. Calm, unsure, but not defensive. That was new. When the water was ready, I poured 2 mugs and handed one to her. We sat at the table before she spoke. I did not come here to fix everything, she said softly. I know I cannot undo years with one apology. I nodded. She kept going. I have been thinking, actually thinking, not reacting, not blaming you. She looked down at her hands. I realized a lot of what I said during our marriage was never really about you. It was about me, my fear, my ego, my idea of what marriage should look like. And most of that idea came from people who cannot even keep their own relationships together. Her voice did not shake this time. There was no performance in it. I let pride make me small, she said. I let sarcasm turn into cruelty. And I turned our home into a stage instead of protecting it like it was supposed to be protected. She lifted her eyes to mine. And the truth is, I always knew what kind of man you were. You show up without shouting. You listen more than you lecture. I knew that, and I still tried to twist it into weakness. Silence stretched between us. Then she reached into her coat pocket and slid something across the table. Her engagement ring. I have been carrying it, she said. Not to beg. Just to remind myself what I threw away. I looked down at it. Simple gold band. Nothing flashy. But it once meant everything. I am not asking to go back, she said. I am asking if there is any space left to move forward. I stared at the ring. My mind moved through the years. The road trips. The arguments. The quiet mornings with coffee. The loud dinners with too many opinions. The late night apologies. The early morning silence. The years we tried. And the years we only pretended to. There was no dramatic rush of emotion inside me. No overwhelming wave of forgiveness. Just space. Room. The kind of space where something new might grow if it was planted carefully. I reached across the table and touched the ring. Then I looked at her. Chloe, I said quietly, I do not want what we had. That version of us broke under its own weight. She nodded. I know. But if you are serious about building something different, I continued, then I will sit at the table with you. Not across from you. Her eyes shined. Not with tears. With something steadier. Hope. We sat there in silence, sipping tea that had already gone lukewarm. But the room did not feel cold anymore. She gave me a small, real smile. Then maybe, she said softly, this time we build quietly. I nodded. No audience, I said. Just us. A week later, we were back at the kitchen table. Not tense. Not bitter. Just 2 mugs of coffee. 2 open laptops. And a folded piece of notebook paper with the words vacation ideas written in Chloe's handwriting. She looked different lately. Not just on the outside. The sharp edge in her voice was gone. That invisible shield she used to carry around like armor had lowered. Maybe not completely gone, but lowered. So, she said, tapping her pen lightly against the paper. I narrowed it down to 3 places. You tell me which one sounds like somewhere we will not end up hating each other. I raised an eyebrow and took a bite of toast. Optimistic, I said. She smirked. And this time, it felt light instead of sharp. Progress, Chloe said with a small shrug. Not perfection. She read the list out loud. A quiet cabin near Steamboat Springs. A lakeside rental in Oregon. Or a small bed and breakfast in New Mexico that promises absolutely no wireless internet. I took a sip of coffee and pretended to weigh the options carefully. Steamboat is close, I said. Easy drive. But we have already done the cabin thing. Yeah, she nodded. And last time I packed 5 pairs of shoes and forgot socks. That was not my finest wilderness moment. I laughed. Not polite. Not forced. It just came out. Warm and real. It surprised both of us. She blinked, eyes softening. I have missed that, she said. What? I asked. That laugh. I have not heard it in a long time. I did not answer directly. I reached for the paper instead and circled the lakeside place in Oregon. I vote for this one, I said. No mountains. No altitude headaches. No shoe disasters. She smiled. Not smug. Not sharp. Just simple. Then Oregon it is. We sat there a few seconds longer than we needed to. And it felt comfortable. Not tense. Not fragile. Comfortable. I did not realize how much I missed that feeling until it came back. After a moment, she said, I have been talking to Madison less. I looked up. That caught me off guard. She called a few times, Chloe continued. I did not answer. Not because I hate her. I just needed to stop depending on her. I nodded slowly. That could not have been easy. It was not, she admitted. But when I was looking at these vacation options, I noticed something. I did not check with her. I did not ask what she thought. I did not wonder what Madison would do. I leaned back in my chair. And what would she have said? She would have told me Oregon is boring, Chloe said. And that we should go somewhere expensive so I could post pictures. I smiled. Then I am glad she was not invited. She laughed. Quiet. Real. And that was when I understood how different this was from before. We were not rushing. No dramatic apologies flying across the table. No silent resentment simmering under coffee cups. Just 2 people talking like partners again. As I stood up to rinse my plate, she looked over at me. Do you really believe I am trying? She asked. I dried my hands on a towel and turned toward her. Yeah, I said. I do. She nodded. then added with a faint smile, "Good. Because I do not want this to feel like a reset button. I want it to feel like a rebuild. Messy floors. Slow progress. Uneven paint and all." "Messy floors," I said. "That is your metaphor?" "Hey," she grinned. "I am working on it." We both laughed again. Not hard. Just enough. Enough to remind us we were not trying to return to what we had been. We were building something new. Not perfect, but ours. It started small. An online story post from Madison. A wine glass in her hand. The caption read, "Some people outgrow their courage and call it peace." Then a comment under one of Chloe's old photos. "Funny how silence says everything." Then the messages started. Not angry. Not direct. Worse. Sarcastic. Mocking. Pretending to be concerned. Brittany texted asking if Chloe was all right, or if Ethan had convinced her to become boring. Madison followed with comments about rebuilding with leftovers. Chloe did not react the way she used to. That morning she was sitting in the living room, hair still damp from the shower, wearing one of my hoodies. I was drinking coffee when she suddenly stood up, walked over, and sat beside me. Without speaking, she held up her phone. "Block or respond?" she asked. I glanced at the screen. Madison again. Something about how I was isolating her. "Your call," I said. "But you already know what I would do." Chloe stared at the screen for a few seconds. Then she tapped the block button. Once. Twice. 3 times. By the time she was finished, half her contact list was gone. She set the phone down like it suddenly weighed nothing. "I should have done that a long time ago," she said quietly. I did not say anything. I did not need to. She turned toward me, voice softer than I had ever heard it. "You were right," she said. "About them. About me." I looked at her. Her eyes were not filled with tears. They were steady. "I thought they were protecting me from you," she continued. "But they were just keeping me from seeing myself clearly. They like me angry. They like things messy. Because then I stayed like them." I reached over and took her hand. "And now?" I asked. "I do not want to be angry anymore," she said. "I do not want to be clever or right or impressive. I just want to be real." A light breeze moved through the open window. Cool. Calm. No storm behind it. We sat there quietly, holding hands. And in that silence, I understood something. What we had now was not flashy, not loud, not performative. It was steady. It was peaceful. And none of those friendships had ever offered that. Not control, not perfection, just peace. And sometimes that is enough.